to how to define your subject. Of course, you don't just have to do one podcast, you can do as many as you like, but it certainly goes back to the point that I mentioned earlier on about making sure you're consistent with what you do. Don't load yourself up with too much that you're, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, and then you don't end up doing anything. So be consistent with it all. Remember, you've got to actually record all of this stuff and get the content out there. So how do we choose a podcast subject? There's going to be an exercise at the end of this section as well. So before we get carried away with ordering the podcast equipment, which we pretty much, I think, all know what we're going to order, let's take a step back and decide on our podcast subject. So obviously, this is a very important area we need to spend some time making sure there is demand for our particular subject matter. Now, you and I were talking this morning about using a podcast to create a business brand, your business brand around you, which isn't necessarily about, you will talk about subjects in your podcast episodes, but you might have a podcast which is specifically to promote yourself as an individual, about building up a brand. And as you mentioned, and you're right, you can take away someone's business, but you can't take away their brand. So having that brand is valuable, and you can talk about any kind of subjects that you want to. But we also, if we're going to do it around a specific subject, like mine based on book writing and publishing, I know there's a market for it. I know there is. But I can also define what people are actually searching for. But defining your subject is not just about this is a subject matter and people want it. It's also about the age. It's about potentially the gender. Who are you going to particularly make your podcast for? Who are you going to target? For example, are you going to just want to work with men? Are you going to want to work with women? And I was coaching someone a couple of days ago, and she specifically just wanted to target women. Therefore, we set up the title, the subject, and even the artwork for females deliberately. We didn't say this is for females, but we made it specific for a female audience. So we're going to use 7 steps to podcast subject success. I'm going to fill out a form as well, which people online who are watching can download this sheet from your area. So the key area number 1, what is the goal of your podcast? And I'd like you to start thinking about this. I'm going to get you to complete the form once we've gone through it and walked through it. But what is the goal of it? You have to have an end goal, and it might be a simple goal that you just want it to promote yourself, or you want the podcast to inform people, or you want to educate them to lead them into something else perhaps. And what I mean by something else, is it a training course? Is it an online course? Do you want to do one-to-one coaching with people where people like your content and then they feel drawn to you? They think, I've got to work with this person, really love it. So think about the end goal for you. What is it that you want to get out of this? Is it just to get yourself out there? Is it just that you enjoy talking and you like creating content? Or is it the fact that you want to sell something at the end? And it might just be that you want to gain authority, to have that expert status. The expert status for me came about when I started to win awards. But if you have a podcast that is very popular, would that give you expert status? 100%. Absolutely. That would give you just as much expert status as I got from winning awards. So once you get to that expert status, it becomes easier, and you can also then start to charge more for it. So what do I mean by this? What is the goal? So before we get started with the podcast, we need to be absolutely clear what the end goal is for you. And your end goal could be to build a brand, to gain more exposure in order to become an expert, to get increased online presence. So we see a lot of people, I'm still a big fan of SEO, search engine optimization. I'm still a big fan of working hard to get things to rank on the first page of Google. However, this, I would suggest, is a quicker way to start getting ranking and get traffic and get presence. Generate targeted leads in order to then use these leads within your business. So whether it's a name and an email address, and you're directing people from your podcast to your landing page, increase training course bookings. So we all know that a good way to create, I'm not saying fast income, but if you look at the model that Simon uses on the Internet Business School, he's very passionate about helping people, but his business model is about getting people onto courses where he can charge more money for it and do a day's training or 3 days training and then give people the resources and support they need thereafter, which is a brilliant model. So it might be that you're looking to do something like that. Or upsell specific products, online courses, services, one-to-one coaching. What about if you had, let's say you've built up a few products. Could you do episodes based around reviewing these products and what people are saying about them and the benefit of them? Yes, you could do. You could review other people's products if you wanted to talk about them. And if somebody has got a specific product within your niche, so if you're in the health and beauty sector and you see someone who's got a brilliant product that is really popular, you could invite the person, the creator of that, the brand or product ambassador onto your show to talk about their product. They're more likely to come on there because there's an incentive for them to sell, and it's good for your listeners as well. So my goal is always to increase course bookings. That's what I want to do. So I'm prepared to spend time, effort, creating content and money to get people to attend a course. And that course is always free. So that's my end goal. So you need to think about what your end goal is. But if you have a defined goal, the chance of being successful increases. And I would suggest a lot of people in business don't know what their goal is. When you really define it, what is it exactly you want to get from that? So this would be my main goal. So if you look at this, I run a series, and I mentioned this earlier on about these one-day book writing and publishing courses. That website, I would send people, whatever content I'm doing, to that website, bookcourse.co.uk. So my podcast would be set up deliberately to send people to that. Now, this is important for you guys because if you look at the domain name, if you look in the bottom right hand of that image, it says ClickFunnels. So, but if you look at the ClickFunnels, page, so if I go to bookcourse.co.uk and I type that in, then if you look at the URL across the top, we'll talk about that capture in a minute. If you look at that URL across the top there, it's richardmcmahon1.clickfunnels.com/free-, but I mean, you can't say that in a podcast, can you? I can put that in a slide and embed it so people click it. But there is also another problem of that, is that is, it doesn't look trustworthy, does it? That URL across there does not look trustworthy. So all I'm doing is I buy the domain name for like $1.99 and I forward it in Domain Monster or whatever platform I'm using to that ClickFunnels page. Now, you will have noticed that what I also had on that page, which I also think is important, and do this whenever you're sending people to your website from your podcast, is when people go to click off, and most people will do. So if I send 100 people to this page, I might get 5% book on this. Okay, but I'm wasting 95% of the leads. Whereas if they go to leave, this comes up. So this is like a two-stage funnel, which gives people the option, because they can't attend the course, well, I give them something for free. So think about what you can give them for free. Now I give them a copy of this in PDF format, a book, but it doesn't have to be a book. You might have a training video that you can give them, and all they do is enter their name and email address. Now, I get a lot more of these sign-ups than I do for the course. But what would I do with those sign-ups? If you don't come to the course and you download the book, what do I then do? Promote the course. I build up a bit more trust. So I see this time and again where people create pages like this, but they don't implement that all-important pop-up where you're offering something, and it's a real waste. So make sure that you do that. It's important. So think about if you're going to send people to somewhere, and we'll talk about when the time is right to do your upsells, I think you should just have one particular thing that you focus on an upsell per episode. Now, it might be that one thing that you do all the time, but don't say during the podcast at the end, okay, I just want to talk about how I can help you if you want to accelerate your learning further. I've got 4 options for you. As soon as I say that, how do you feel? Confused, too much. Just keep it to 1. I wouldn't even do 2, just do one thing. So I've got this one thing for you, and then add scarcity to it as well. So there's a time limit, and have a genuine time limit to it as well.